face, Roger. We're
Run
live.
away.
That just made me look really jerky on the video because they didn't hear him say it before. I just
Just ordering him.
banished
Hide
him.
your face, Roger.
Hide your face, Roger.
How dare you?
How dare you show up a video? You know, you don't have to hide your face until we actually are starting the show, but just so people know.
I know. I keep telling him people like you. It's okay to hang around.
Yeah, absolutely. We get lots of emails to Roger at our email address.
You screwed up, man.
In fact, one of our YouTube comments about the Apple stuff that we've been talking about was like, Roger's the only one who really knows what's going on.
Sorry, I wrote that on a whim.
Under one of your many pseudonyms.
I don't actually have a child. That's just a
You just rent.
Yeah, it's an incredible
It's all an
fact.
elaborate ruse.
Can you imagine if that was the case and you're like scratching your head like, why?
Yeah,
Borrowed a baby.
But what did you get out of that exactly, Roger? You'll never understand, Merritt. All right.
That.
We'll check and make sure nobody broke any like really, really crazy news. Periscope data, not Periscope, the live streaming, just pulled in $25 million in Series B funding. I don't think that's worth ripping up our lineup for. BBC is mentioning the DeepMind thing. That's cool. We're going to talk about that. Harvard cancels men's soccer season after finding sexually explicit reports.
There it is.
Oh, it's that. It's about that.
Of course it is. It always is.
Took a click. Right. Oh, this is the whole thing where they were rating people and gross. All right. Nope. So the answer is no. Nothing. Nothing worth ripping up our lineup for. All right. Well, you ready?
I am ready.
There we go.
This show is brought to you by audience members like me, not outside organizations. To find out more, go to dailytechnewsshow.com/support.
This is the Daily Tech News for Friday, November 4th, 2016. I'm Tom Merritt. Len Peralta was going to try to draw something for today, and he just was not able to pull it off, and he's unable to be on the show. But we wish him well, and we miss him, and he'll be back next week. But we're very happy to have Jenn Cutter, producer of things that cannot be named. But fan of esports and video games and smart writer and hockey player and all kinds of cool stuff. Good to have you back on the show.
Always a pleasure to be here.
Thank you for joining us. Apple is cutting the price of USB-C adapters. Are you an Apple laptop user or no?
I am not. No, all my Adobe work I do on PC.
Okay, so you don't care about this whole USB-C fiasco, but I guess Apple's finally caving into the dongle hate because they're cutting the price after a bunch of people already bought adapters, like, I don't know, me. So I'm not exactly appeased by it. Samsung is disconnecting Note 7s from mobile carriers in New Zealand starting November 18th. You didn't own a Note 7 at any point, did you?
No, my dad did. So I helped him with the returns, and because even in Canada, Rogers, who was his thing, Rogers had some of the supposedly cleared Note 7s, but they didn't release them. They were smart. So he went through a laundry list of Samsung phones and eventually just gave up and got an iPhone because
Wow.
Well, he couldn't get a recent enough Samsung here on his plan that it wasn't worth it. Why would you pay what he's currently paying for a Note 4?
Yeah. No, and they wouldn't give him an S7?
No, they didn't have any. They were all gone
they'd
instantly.
run out.
Yeah.
Huh.
So we can put you on a waiting list. He's like, well, I kind of need a phone now.
Yeah.
So he's an iPhone guy now.
Wow, he went all the way to iOS. They drove him all the way to iOS. That's great.
Yes. So I had all kinds of fun messages like, how do I send a text? Okay, see, there's this thing called messages. Like it's a phone. It's not that hard.
Yeah. It'll all work out eventually. Now, Here are some more top stories. Speaking of Samsung, Samsung is issuing a voluntary recall of 2.8 million washing machines manufactured between March 2011 and now. The company has 733 reports of the machines malfunctioning because of excessive vibration. And we talked about this before on the show. It is not unusual for this to happen with washing machines, but apparently these washing machines were vibrating way more than the usual vibrations. In fact, 9 people were injured as a result, not seriously, but, you know, cuts and bruises. Samsung is offering free repair of the malfunction or a rebate to purchase a new Samsung washer. Now, normally we don't cover white goods, as they call these sorts of things, and appliances on Daily Tech News Show, but this is at the top of every tech blog because even though it's not the same division, it's Samsung having to go through a big recall, 2.8 million machines, shortly after this Note 7 recall that we were just talking about.
Yeah, they're having a bad PR year.
Yeah.
Injuries are not helpful.
Does this, in your opinion, tarnish Samsung's image more? Let's not even talk about what the Note 7 did. If you hear about the washing machine on top of this, does this just make you snicker, or is this something where you're like, wow, I really don't trust this company anymore?
Well, I have a giant Samsung TV like right there that I keep side-eyeing, but it's old enough that I'm fine with it. But in terms of like their new products, I really like Samsung televisions. I'm going to be less eager to buy a new Samsung TV until it's been in the wild long enough that I can trust it.
Yeah. Probably there's no rational reason to do that because the Samsung TV is from an entirely other division. But at this point, you're like, yeah, but I don't know.
Maybe QA needs some help.
I can get a Panasonic or an LG, like, you know.
Sharps are nice.
Yeah, Sharp makes some lovely panels. Microsoft is ready to roll out its Unified Update Platform, or UUP. The short version of this is that updates to Windows will only make you download the parts of the code that are new. In the past, it was just downloading a whole operating system update, so it'd be, you know, several gigabytes, around 4 gigabytes maybe. Now it will be, Microsoft says, up to 35% smaller. And if you're a couple of updates behind, you'll get more because it will give you the code you need. But otherwise, if you're staying up to date, it will just give you the code that is changed. It will also speed up checking for updates. Most users will see UUP when the Windows Creators Update comes, we believe, next March. Insiders, though, if you're on the preview versions, will get it in the mobile release starting Friday and coming to PC builds later this year. This is something I definitely am excited about because almost more so for the idea that checking for updates would be faster.
Oh, as someone on metered bandwidth, I love it. Thank you for making them smaller.
Oh yeah, absolutely. If you're on some kind of data cap, every little bit counts, right?
And with multiple devices in most households now, that it just adds up. Yeah,
and it takes more time for the install to happen when you have that much data that you're crunching through, so it helps with that. I don't think anyone, I should never say that because we'll get an email immediately to feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com telling me why this is a horrible idea. But I don't see the downside to this as long as the install fine, right?
Yeah.
Strategy Analytics may report that Apple's smartphone market share is declining, but BMO Capital Market analyst Tim Long estimates that Apple, and I'm not misspeaking, I'm going to say this very careful, Apple makes 103.6% of the smartphone industry's profits.
Yeah, I read that about 6 times to make sure I got that right.
Certainly I am known for typos, so I would not judge anyone for looking at this and go, Tom wrote that wrong, I better go to the story. 103.6% of the smartphone industry's profits, because, and I think anybody who understands the little bit about how to calculate percentages will get this, some companies lose money on smartphones, and apparently Apple makes so much money on smartphones and other companies lose enough money on smartphones that when you create the percentage, it's like, well, they're actually making more money than there is in the smartphone market after you've subtracted all the money that people lost.
This is why I didn't go into math.
Yeah. Samsung's number 2. They make 0.9% of
and falling precipitously.
And so that brings the total profitable marketplace up above 104%. This is interesting in light of those strategy analytics numbers, though, that we talked about yesterday. 88% of the market is Android. Most of the world runs on Android. And we talked about the fact that part of the reason for that is your affordable phones are running on Android. So I guess it makes sense that Apple is raking in the lion's share of money by selling these high-end phones, right?
Yeah, they have a much bigger profit margin than people who are just scraping by on tiny little margins.
Yeah. Rich Communication Services, or RCS, is a protocol meant to replace SMS. Now, the idea is like they want to catch up with what you can do on Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp or Line or Kakao Talk. It's delivered by mobile carriers, so it doesn't actually use your data. It runs over the carrier's network, not on the internet. It provides better support for images, video, group chat. There's no character limit. Some of that stuff may impact your data, I'm not sure. But it's rich messaging. Sprint announced on Friday it will support the protocol starting now using Google's Jibe implementation. They said they were going to do this back in February, and it's launching today on Android's Messenger app on Sprint phones. Now, here's where it gets tricky. Try to follow me. AT&T and T-Mobile already support RCS, but neither of their implementations work with Google's Jibe or each other. So if I send an RCS message from one of these new Sprint phones to AT&T, it'll just arrive as a normal SMS message. It will not, it'll attach the image and it will break it down. And vice versa if AT&T sends an RCS message to a T-Mobile user. If I'm sending it from one user on AT&T to another, then it will show up with all the richness, okay? T-Mobile and AT&T have signed on to the GSMA, that's the agents, the administration that looks over GSM, and all of the carriers are a member. GSMA has an intercompatible messaging standard. They've signed on to it, but they haven't made their systems intercompatible yet. Verizon has its own proprietary messaging platform that isn't even a rich communication service. Google's trying to get everybody to standardize. They based their implementation on Jibe on the GSMA's universal profile, but AT&T and T-Mobile aren't compatible with it yet because they want to change the universal profile so that they can have certain features be exclusive to their networks. They want to keep the basics intercompatible, but also say, yeah, but we want this one thing to only be for AT&T users. And of course, Apple has not made and has no indication it will make any support of RCS on its phone. So if you're using an iOS phone, you would never see these RCS messages anyway. Have I lost everyone, Jen, do you think, at this point?
I'm so glad you were the one who had to explain that. That is really complicated.
The upshot is they're trying to make, GSMA is trying to make a standard, and everybody's trying to get their standard accepted, and no one's accepting anyone else's standard. And I think the saddest thing about this is SMS is dying, or potentially could die, because everybody likes these rich messaging apps, but it's one saving grace. The one thing that's keeping it alive in the regions of the world where it's still living, like the United States and Canada, is it is universally compatible. I know that if I send a message to someone over SMS that they'll get it. And this seems to be just tearing up that last advantage.
Like, I turned off iMessage for a lot of people just because it was easier to know that whether I was like getting into the subway or not, that they were going to get the message. I didn't have to worry about whether they were on Wi-Fi or anything. They'd get the message. That's the entire point of this thing. If I wanted to use Facebook Messenger or Line or WhatsApp, I would use those other things. Don't screw up text messaging.
Yeah, no, I think it's a sad state of affairs, because I love the idea that they're like, hey, let's take the advantage of SMS, its interoperability, and build on it so you can do some of those cool things with it. And this is thankfully not going to take away SMS, but it's basically leaving SMS as a very simple protocol, and granted, some simple protocols
works.
Like maybe that's all for the best, is let's just leave it there, like IRC still works great.
Love IRC.
Yeah,
chat program.
Of course, BlizzCon going on in Anaheim, just down the road. I was down there last night saying hi to some folks, people very excited. One of the interesting things about Blizzard in recent times is they've been starting to make announcements about their games outside of their own conference, and they are pitching BlizzCon more as an esports event. And the announcements today leaned into that. Blizzard announced a new esports league for its game Overwatch called Overwatch League. Now, we here at Daily Tech News Show support naming things in literally descriptive terms, so we're not going to make fun of calling an Overwatch League Overwatch League. The way it's going to work is really fascinating. Major cities in North and South America, Europe, China, and Korea, and the South Pacific will have teams drafted out of open competition and offered guaranteed salaries and contracts. So not every city is going to get one at first. There might be a couple cities in North America, a couple cities in China, but they plan to expand eventually. First season starts in early 2017. Now, as somebody who's followed esports closely over the years, what do you think of Blizzard's sort of, we're going to own a league around our game, but make it franchise-based with team owners? Like, they will be approving people to own these teams.
I think, like, Blizzard does have a long history in esports. They watched StarCraft 1 become this huge mega thing in Korea and were annoyed that they didn't get as much money from that directly as they felt they were entitled to. So StarCraft 2, they took a more hands-on approach and handled things directly, which made a lot of people in Korea especially annoyed. And now they've got, let's see, Heroes of the Storm, Hearthstone, and now Overwatch, which they are taking a very hands-on approach to and are controlling things to this kind of extent, but have learned lessons from all of their mistakes of the past and all of others' mistakes in the past. So I'm kind of proud of them for this direction. My favorite bit of news in all this is actually that there will be an off-season. Pros can have lives, pros can rest, pros don't have to worry as much, in theory at this point, about ruining their livelihood and not taking care of themselves and their risks and burning themselves out in like 2 years, which is still, I don't know. Basically, esports pros have a very short shelf life, especially for these high EPM kind of games. So it's going to be interesting to see how they make Overwatch more watchable. They say that they're working on it because their spectator tools and broadcast tools right now are, let's go with mediocre at best. But it's a very fun game to watch. It's pretty, it's colorful. You get a sense of what's going on pretty quickly. And I find it a lot more fun to watch than Heroes of the Storm and the card game.
Hearthstone. Yeah. Like Hearthstone, if you play it a lot, you watch for the strategy, right? That's the
Copy
base.
Those decks.
Yeah, that's almost the baseball of Blizzard's esports. You have to be into the stats game. Whereas Overwatch is the fun sport, right? You have the heroes that are the characters in here, and Blizzard was making a big deal of bringing parallels to, we're going to create the new stars that are the heroes you cheer for in playing the game as well. As a fan of sports in general, I find it fascinating that they are trying to build people's loyalties around regions. So, it looks like they're going to have a West Coast and an East Coast team for North America, for instance. And that leaves out a lot of people, obviously. But if you're around one of those cities, you're going to want to cheer for those cities. And they are drafting players for those teams out of competitions in those regions. So unlike professional sports, at least from the start, and I'll be curious how strict they're able to keep this, your players will come from the region you're cheering for. These will be your local ladies and men out there fighting for you, rather than some hired person from anywhere in the world who is signed to a contract.
Yes, local and esports will be a new kind of thing if they make it work. Because like League of Legends has funky rules on who's considered an import and who isn't, and how they handle contracts. And contracts alone is a giant thing in esports that everyone's trying to handle. That, like, esports law is its own thing right now. It's such a specialized area. There's so many international laws you have to be aware of, and players have to be smart, get a lawyer. I don't care what esport you're in, please get a lawyer before you sign any contracts, because none of these first offers from any team will be in your favor. But Blizzard, we'll see how local these locals really are.
Right. Because I mean, it's not unprecedented in esports. There are national teams and things like that, but trying to have a local franchise, even no professional sport really keeps their local teams local, and that will be interesting. Also, and this is not unusual, but maybe people who haven't followed esports as closely, most of the games, the teams won't be in the same place. They'll be LAN games, but there will be live audiences, so your team will always be playing at home, at least until the championship.
Oh, yeah. Because when I think about real sports, like to use hockey as the example, that's the one I know best. Most of the Canadian national players are playing in the States because that's where the competition is. So that's why, like, local, is it going to be just based on passport? What is it based on? Since you can literally be anywhere.
No, it's going to be interesting to watch. Like we said, first season starts early 2017. And of course, they will have a championship game that will have the players in the same location, a la the Super Bowl or the Stanley Cup. You always get the teams in the same location.
You know that the production values are going to be amazing for this. I'm really excited to see how that takes shape.
The other interesting announcement from Blizzard today is they're teaming up with Google's DeepMind to train AI to play StarCraft 2. I will pause while you make all of your own jokes about training machine learning for StarCraft 2. But the reason that DeepMind wants to do this is as a bridge to handling messy real-world problems. StarCraft 2 doesn't have the nice, strict rules of Go. It's a huge achievement to train an algorithm to play Go because it is so complex. But even as messy as Go is, it has simple rules that create that complexity. Whereas StarCraft 2 is all over the place. There's all kinds of things that maybe aren't as complex logically as Go, but are things that our human mind is more able to process at a glance, which is why some humans, mostly in Korea, are really good at StarCraft 2. And the other interesting thing about this is they are going to limit the reaction time of the computer, because the one big advantage the computer would have is they can move, they can battle the Zerg in a split second, where it might take us a little bit to notice that it's happening. So I think that it is interesting that they're going to incapacitate the AI in one place to try to improve it overall.
I love that they're limiting the APM. That was my first thought about that, because you can cover up a lot of mistakes if you have this inhuman reaction time to fix your orders. But as Roger just showed on that screen there, I love like that heat map kind of action, so you can see how the machine sees it. But the whole DeepMind thing, I have a hard time wrapping my brain around, because they're trying to train this AI to solve problems without it asking humans how to approach solving the problem. Which is such a cool thing and also really scary.
Yeah, and we had Charlie Oliver on the show on Monday talking about why it shouldn't be scary, and we just need better people at explaining it so that it is less scary. Because it's the thing I always go back to is there's a huge gap between what it actually can do and what we're worried it can do. And we don't really even know if it can get to the thing we're worried about. But I get it. I have that same impulse of like, sure, it starts with StarCraft 2.
War game.
Yeah. And then
I don't really want computers playing war games.
It takes its StarCraft 2 knowledge and starts controlling drones. And then what? I do not want to see a real life Zerg rush. I don't. But yeah, this is a fantastic partnership, at least for research purposes. I'm very interested to see what comes out of it. Thanks to everybody who participates in our subreddit. You can submit stories and vote on them at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. You guys rock. All right. There's a lot of bad news. Internet of Things being hijacked and being taken over to, blink all the lights in a city at once to try to take down its power grid. It's a theoretical concept. There's the elections in the United States and France right now, which have everyone angry. So I am very pleased that Jen wanted to talk about Lego Dimensions today. And we'll get to why I think this is really interesting to talk about, because I think it's part of the evolution of video games from a kid's thing to just another perfectly legitimate way to entertain yourself. But first of all, explain what Lego Dimensions is for people who aren't aware.
So Lego Dimensions, when you buy the game, you buy just like the game part of it, which is available on pretty much every system. except for portables. And then you also get this platform that comes with like Lego pieces that you build into a fancy little StarCraft-looking gate. Now, on that platform, you can place characters from various licenses, and those give you access to those characters immediately. So when you have Batman on the platform, Batman's selectable. Same with Gandalf, Wildstyle, Marty McFly, Scooby-Doo. They're all selectable while they're on the platform. And you can like remove them, put them on, all live while you're playing. Drop in, drop out.
So how is this different from Skylanders or Disney Infinity or Amiibo?
Well, Amiibo does not have this kind of active component. Amiibo, you can kind of like save stuff on, or it'll unlock things for you. Disney Infinity, while they have like some great sculpture work on the statues, in terms of free play mode, you couldn't like mix and match the Incredibles with other superheroes that they had licenses for, except in like certain toy wax modes. You couldn't take them into the story like you can here, where you can kind of just put anybody anywhere at any time, which is great. And then Skylanders has a huge lore behind it, but I felt was aimed at a much younger market, and I couldn't get into it that way. And there were so many toys that you had to buy to get access to all the areas. It felt I kind of felt exploited really early on in that process, whereas here I didn't, because you can access quite a lot of the worlds with just the base pack. You don't have to buy the extra DLC as the extra toy packs immediately.
Now, when you mentioned it being targeted at a different audience, is LEGO Dimensions targeted at older people, or is it all ages, or how does it feel?
Well, I have a lot of LEGO games, but I had stopped playing most of them because I felt, okay, this is the same old thing. I'm going to just get more mini kits and collect a lot of studs, and the cinemas are going to be really cute, but I don't need to drop $60 on this. And with Dimensions, I find the writers have gotten a lot more clever about their references and getting the voice actors back in the studio to give you new lines. Like Chris Pratt, who plays like 900 different people in movies, is also in 3 different licenses in LEGO Dimensions, because he's Emmett and he's in Jurassic World. So Wildstyle, as voiced by Elizabeth Banks, says different things to both of those characters and references the fact that it's kind of the same person.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, so
she's clever and like an adult thing.
Self-awareness, yeah.
And I love a lot of the other characters, though, I should warn, are archive audio. So it's just stuff from like the movies that they pulled. But like Doc Brown, they got Christopher Lloyd back. That's nice. Awesome.
Yeah.
So to hear him say new lines in the game, it is a nostalgia trip, and I'm kind of into it. It's working for me. I gave them money for that.
I read Sean Buckley from Engadget wrote up a LEGO Dimension today as well, and he was pointing out that LEGO has adapted Lord of the Rings, Back to the Future, Adventure Time, Doctor Who, both Ghostbusters, the original and the more recent one.
Yes.
And that strikes me as really targeting, the current geeky audience that is pouring money into movies, and that seems to be saying this really is meant for adults. And it sounds like they're not making it adult so that kids couldn't play it, but they're certainly targeting it towards us.
And older than, say, my age group, because also in year 2,
that's why
Mission
I said
Impossible,
us, because I met old people like me too. Yeah.
Like the A-Team is not really going to appeal to the young kids out there. Now, you can play this game with young kids, but I will warn that levels can be on the long side. Some of the story segments, especially off the top, pretty long. They might get bored, but they finally added a skip button, so you can like skip the cinemas and watch them later and have fun with that on your own.
It sounds like the writing is part of it, but also the flexibility is part of it, because you don't have to buy a new game to get access to all of these. How does it work? How do you get the new adventures when they come out with, say, the Lord of the Rings?
Well, Lord of the Rings specifically is part of the base game. So Gandalf comes with your base set. So you can play with him through the whole game. And then they have this hub world where you can go specifically to the Lord of the Rings world. And that's like a free roaming area. There's quests, 900 trillion things to collect because it is a Lego game. And so you have those worlds immediately when you buy the game. Now, for me to get access to the Scooby-Doo world, I had to buy the Scooby-Doo pack. and that gives me access to more powers that get me more mini kits in the main game. And again, that whole Scooby-Doo world, and that works for everybody. And then year 2, which is what we're in right now, we have the new Ghostbusters, which gives you, it was like 6 or 8 new story, and the Lego sets are different. So for most of them, like, you know, I have like Portal right here. So Portal comes with like shell, and then I have a turret and a companion cube in Lego. It's so cute.
Oh my gosh, that's so perfect.
Yes, the build quality of these sets are really nice, and that's why I don't feel ripped off buying these, because I have the physical thing, which are really good quality. I get the powers in the game, and I get access to the Portal world. Now, to use new Ghostbusters as the example, I actually build the Chinese restaurant that is their base in the new game, and I get Abby, and I get a vehicle in that, and that gives me access to playing through that whole movie inside the game. And I can take Abby into any of the other worlds I feel like. And Abby can also turn into every other Ghostbuster. Same way that Peter Venkman can turn into any other Ghostbuster in the game too.
Interesting.
So you're getting a lot for that, but that's why the year 2 packs are more expensive, because you're getting more than just one level out of it.
Well, and I think it shines a light on something, and it's really smart of Lego Dimension to do this, which is toys like comics before them and like video games are something that may have been introduced for kids, but have grown up. And you're seeing Lego acknowledge that, hey, there's a huge toy industry of collectibles for grown-ups, and there's a huge video game industry for grown-ups. Let's tie those two together. Do you think this is toy-based games growing up?
It's toy-based games understanding where the money is. Because kids can drive along purchasing decisions.
That's a very grown-up thought, yeah.
Like, when I was playing through the game the first time, you fight the Wicked Witch of the West immediately. That's the first like level. It's not, interesting to a lot of kids, nor me particularly. I'm not a huge, Wizard of Oz fan. But as I get to, the final boss, and Wildstyle says, "Hey, look at her broomstick. She's defying gravity." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, you just made a Broadway song reference." Like they were clearly aimed so squarely at me for this game that, yeah, I gave them a lot of money pretty much immediately after that.
Yeah, no, it's really smart. And I think it's an interesting trend. I wonder, I mean, here we have 3 things, which is, the rise of blockbuster geeky movies, comic book heroes, fantasy, etc., the rise of the collectible toy industry, and of course Lego as part of that. In fact, Steve I in our Slack said, "I have a friend that a few months ago started a Lego and whiskey meetup at a local restaurant that has a great whiskey list." Yeah, exactly. So, if you want to scoff at this, that's fine. But these guys are enjoying not only playing with Legos, but having fine whiskey at the same time.
Like the Lego Batman trailer just dropped today, like the new one. And year 2, there's going to be a Lego Batman movie set coming out, and I guarantee that the second that's available, I will buy it.
Yeah. So it's movies, it's toys, it's video games, all crossing. Is there anything else they can include that we're missing? Like it seems to be the nexus of all things geeky here.
Gosh, I guess if they like put in a Thundercats set, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what else they're missing.
Yeah. Write us and let us know. Feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com. In fact, we got some messages regarding our discussion of Apple yesterday. Scott wrote, "I've been using Macs a long time. I'm a self-proclaimed Apple fanboy," he says. "My first computer was a Centrus 610. One thing you didn't mention on the show was that Microsoft event the day before. The Surface Books and the Surface Studio look really sexy, but I knew Apple was going to one-up Microsoft like they always do. Apple really, to keep Patrick's puns going, dropped the ball on this announcement big time. Microsoft has been coming out with some amazing things lately, but Apple doesn't have an answer. I have a MacBook Pro, and I will not be buying a new one. I actually bought a Dell 13 XPS, installed Ubuntu on it, and so far, really enjoying it." Jen, as somebody who mostly lives in the Windows world yourself, did you feel the same way about seeing that Microsoft announcement?
Oh, I loved it. I wish that it was something I could put to use better, because it was so pretty. I'm kind of wondering how they're going to make money on that, because just the raw parts of it alone would add up to pretty close to that. I'm excited to see them push into new markets, and I was surprised that Apple did not have as exciting an announcement to follow that up with.
Well, and I think that is really another thing that we didn't mention enough on the show was even if you love the MacBook Pros, and there are things to love about them. That's what we talked about yesterday. You're expecting Apple in the narrative of last week to answer Microsoft. If there's no Microsoft announcement last week, I don't think the criticism of these laptops is as harsh because I don't think Apple created these laptops as an answer to what Microsoft is doing. But that is the way it ended up playing out. So they certainly aren't an answer to the Surface Studio. And then Cass wrote in and said, quick question regarding the MacBook Pro port massacre. If a hub with a few of the most needed ports was shipped with the MacBook Pro for free, would this reduce the amount of anger and outcry about the new model? Would having a breakout box of ports be too un-Apple-y? That's an interesting question. Like, and I don't even know how to answer it. I don't see Apple shipping a breakout box in with their laptops. I can answer that part of it. But would that make me as a user happier if they're like, look, we future-proofed the ports. We put in USB-C, but we're going to give you this kind of unwieldy box to allow you to easily plug everything in without having to buy a bunch of dongles. I don't know. Would you rather have a breakout box or a dongle or a handful of dongles? That's the question.
For me, I prefer the all-in-one solution, even if it's like a slightly more clunky, just to not have things I can lose.
Yeah.
Especially if it's a laptop supposed to be portable. I don't want to have pieces I can lose.
That's why I like having USB-C on things. I like having USB-C on my Nexus 5X. I like having it on my Pixel C because I know in the future that's where those cables are going to go. And you never escape the dongle war because even with HDMI and USB-C, there will be a new version. The HDMI right now, it's like, ooh, I actually don't have the right HDMI cable for HDR, so I'm going to have to swap those cables out. Like, there's all kinds of crazy stuff like that. Thomas, the terrible film critic extraordinaire, that's how he describes himself, wrote it. Yeah, it is. I wanted to chime in on Tom and Justin's Filmstruck discussion from Wednesday's show as a hardcore film nerd who has subscribed to the service and immediately fell in love with it. Now, both of you seem to be, suffice it to say, a little hesitant towards the service. Tom's main problem seemed to be the separation of the Criterion Collection into a separate channel, fair enough, and Justin's main problem seemed to be the extras that were being included, also fair. I subscribed on the basis of on the base $6.99 a month plan due to financial reasons. So I've only had personal experience with the standard Filmstruck catalog. That's the one that doesn't have the Criterion Collection. He said, I can say with complete confidence that that catalog is more than satisfactory. When I subscribed to the service, I decided to test it out by selecting 5 films to watch completely at random. The films I selected were Man Bites Dog, Cleo from 5 to 7, Interiors, The Entertainer, and The Woman in the Window. All of them were really good, and almost all of them I never would have even thought to seek out on my own. With respect to you both, that really is Filmstruck's primary goal. They've created a catalog of films that have gone completely under the mainstream radar or have been lost to time for hardcore film nerds like myself to discover and be delighted by. Extras are fine, but I think at the end of the day, what really matters for a streaming service is its catalog, and so far, I could not be more impressed with Filmstruck's catalog, even without the Criterion Collection. He apologizes for the long email, but I think that was worth reading because here's somebody who said, yeah, I wanted good films. Don't discount the part that's not from Criterion. This is excellent curation. And Jen, that is an interesting prospect. Is it appealing to you to have a video service that is really well curated? This one's for hardcore film nerds, but maybe you could have one for other interests out there. Would that be something where you would say, well, I want that in addition to Netflix?
First, just to rant really quickly, I wanted to give this company money. I was so excited when they first announced the service. I was going to buy the full year in advance because some of these movies even have commentary tracks available. Finally streaming with commentary, and it's only available in the US. Jerks. But I do believe that curation, especially for movies, especially for stuff under the radar or things that just predate your birthday, it's critical to find these things that you would not have discovered on your own. I have a private film club with friends where we all put together our kind of top 10 lists for specific genres or specific years, and we all take turns watching stuff, and commenting on them. And I love that this is kind of that on a much wider scale. Those are some great movies. If you haven't seen The Entertainer, you probably should.
Great movie. Yeah, absolutely. Well, there you go. Thank you for writing in, both everybody, Cass, Tom, Scott, and thank you, Jenn Cutter, for joining us. I know you can't really talk about one of the things that you're working on, but instead, I love that you wanted to mention the Extra Life Marathon, which is happening again.
Yes, tomorrow, if you follow any streamers on Twitch, you've probably been hearing about this for months and months now. But tomorrow, the Extra Life Marathon is going on. All of your favorite streamers and probably some people you know are running like these huge mega gaming marathons all weekend to raise money for children's hospitals all across North America. Please tune in. Please kick people a couple of bucks if you can. It is tax deductible. It's a real charity thing. Go give them a look.
extra-life.org. It's actually one of the reasons, Scott Johnson, who does the Extra Life comic, has given up some of his naming because he's like, yeah, this is a great organization. I want them to get the attention for this. So go check it out, extra-life.org. Big thanks to everybody who supports our show. dailytechnewsshow.com/support is the place to go to do that. And a welcome to our new patrons, Thomas M. Tatum and Dean Davison, among many others. Big thanks to Richard Porter and Ron Ryman, who increased their pledges. You guys rock. Thanks to every single person who supports this show, patreon.com/DTNS. Don't forget, if you're like, you know what, I just don't have any cash right now to support the show, just tell us what your favorite segment of the year was. Roger's putting together a best of show. He wants to know what your favorite discussion topic, your favorite segment was. Go to bit.ly/bestofdtns. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. We're live Monday through Friday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern at alphageekradio.com and diamondclub.tv. And our website is dailytechnewsshow.com. Sunday, Peter Wells has the Day 6 version of DTNS from Australia. And Monday, Space Hacks Ariel Waldman joins Veronica and me. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Good show. What should we call it?
I still love Frog Pants.
What's that?
I said I still love Frog Pants just
Yay.
as a name.
It's such a good name, I know.
Can you hear me? Audio?
I
No
can
audio?
hear you, Roger.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, that's like 3 for 3 this week. Usually
Amazing.
Well, I guess it took it away from and camera being all wiggy. Top is who watches the Overwatchers? Man, why? All right, someone who will overwatch me. Everything is awesome.
Everything is awesome.
Nice.
It's pretty good.
I like
that.
SMS RIP. The World Cup of Overwatch. Deep Mind the Gap. Someone who will overwatch me.
Deep Mind the Gap.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Lego's going to another dimension. Lego My Dimension.
Lego sent me 2 emails in the course of that show. That's
Oh,
pretty funny.
really?
Yeah, just like the Lego shop stuff. Because I'm VIP.
Not correcting us.
You
or
spend that
anything.
much money with them.
Recently I did. I have a whole bunch of sets arriving Monday.
You never escape the Donga War. I had to stop buying Legos. It's an expensive hobby. I just stick with Transformers. Samsung recalls again. Samsung's PR is beyond recall.
Total recall.
D-Mine needs to train. I am Brickman. A new dimension to Lego. Esports guys have a short shelf life. Lego Tupac. Whiskey a Lego.
Whiskey a Lego is funny. Wow, Shane, you're killing it today.
Deep Mind the Gap and Everything is Awesome are my picks. Those are my 2 faves.
Yeah, I like going with Everything is Awesome. That works for me. There's some good ones in here, though. SMS RIP. Someone who will overwatch me. Did you say that one, Roger? I don't remember.
Yes.
That's funny, too.
Oh, I'm so sad Peralta wasn't here to draw today.
I know. Well, he was not going to be able to be on the show. He knew that, but he's like, I'm going to try to draw something ahead of time, and then you could just show it. I'll put it in the store.
Ah.
And so I was so excited when we picked Lego. I'm like, finally, we're not doing a hacking topic with Darren. Not that the hacking topics are bad, but for Len, it's always a stretch to try to figure out how to illustrate it. I'm like, this one's great. And then he's like, I'm not going to be able to do it. I'm running behind. And I'm like, I hate to tell you this, but the topic today is Lego Dimension. He's like, of course.
Oh, just teasing the poor man.
I know.
Everything is awesome.
Yes, Dark Redeemer says he always likes to try and class up the place with Broadway quotes. So, good work.
Everything fires. Yeah, the fire. Legos.
Like, are you guys Doctor Who fans at all?
I am.
Yeah.
We're both
Okay,
of us are.
see, I don't know anything about Doctor Who, and I just played through the Doctor Who level last night. So there were like these stone things all around that you couldn't do anything to, that I just kind of ignored for 75% of the level. And then the lights started flickering and they came after my ass and I jumped clear over the
were they
couch.
weeping angels? Were they? Yeah, the weeping angels. Oh yeah.
Oh my god, that was amazing.
They don't
was not
move if
ready.
you look at them, but if you
Well, 'cause the
blink,
lights started flickering
Yeah.
and then they started
when
moving.
you can't see them, that's when they can move.
Yeah.
It's kind of a tongue-in-cheek take on the whole improbable, or what's it?
Quantum mechanics.
Yeah, but the
Yeah,
Heisenberg's
Schrodinger's
uncertainty principle,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
basically states that you cannot know the velocity of something if you're looking.
You can't know the location and the velocity.
at the same time.
Yeah.
Which is why they have Heisenberg compensators in Star Trek for the transporters.
Right.
Well, it was another time where I had to give props to the writers because everything that Wildstyle was saying kind of mirrored my own comments, only I was cursing a lot more than she did.
You should watch. You would totally dig Doctor. It's so funny. I grew out of a lot of British TV shows I watched as a kid and a teen and in college. Like, I don't find. I know it's going to be sacrilege for me saying this, but I don't find a lot of Monty Python as funny as I did back in the day. And I don't find Red Dwarf funny after the first season or series or whatever they call it. I still like Inspector Morse and a few of the other ones, but Doctor Who is one of those things I always enjoy watching. Although
fan, but she never made me watch it. She always just watched it on her own.
Although the older ones, like the ones they made intentionally for kids, are really slow compared to the ones yeah. Like it's weird if you've never watched it and you try to watch those. It's like, wow, this is just an entirely different tempo and pulse feel. And then one of my old interns, Jackie Cirillo, she said, and I think she worked for the BBC for a time, and she told me it's like they intentionally made it that way. They intentionally made it plotting because they were afraid younger children wouldn't understand what was going on. So they literally kind of explained everything. So it could be explained out.
Well, it was originally pitched as an educational program. It was their way of getting a science fiction program on the air, was to say, but it will also be educating kids on history.
Hey kids, don't blink.
Yeah. I don't know that the modern one is as worried with educating kids or not.
Oh, and also for Doctor Who, when you play not in the story bits, every time he dies, he comes back as the next Doctor in the series.
Oh, nice.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So it's all kinds of like those little clever touches that.
It's
impressed with the game.
That's crazy. That's really cool.
Well, and that's ultimately kind of what sets apart a good game from a great game, is their ability to do in-depth detail on things. Like, games. One of the things that I really appreciated about the original BioShock, not the subsequent ones, was the attention they did to cultivating the whole kind of Anne Ryan, like, utopia world universe, down to the way things look and the way they operated. It was just really well thought out. The last one, not so much. But that's me.
Yeah, I still remember you making me play BioShock on my Xbox 360, and it was not a bad thing. Yeah. You were very excited about that.
Yeah, it's like, wow, you've never played it. Like, he doesn't like Tom doesn't like FPSs, and BioShock is an FPS, and he enjoyed it.
Mostly because I'm not good at them.
I don't do any scary games. I can't. I just can't.
You know, I tried to get you to play Left 4 Dead with me, and you're like, no.
Nope, not gonna happen.
It's like,
Apparently, that's one you just want to play for the story, though.
No, Left 4 Dead. No, you want
wait, not Left 4 Dead. I'm thinking Last of Us. Sorry.
Last of Us. You want to play for the story.
Left for Us. Last of Dead. What?
So many.
My wife said, like, this game's great because she just watched when I was playing. It's like, this is really well written because this is, you know, that and was it Naughty Dog that did that? The Last of Us.
Oh,
but
yeah.
because they also were responsible for all the Uncharted games, which is also has a phenomenal, like, you know, script, voice acting, like everything is well done. It's the only reason why I can consider going and buying a PS4 at this point is to play those games. But the thing is, with a kid, I can't really play that many games. So I watch videos of people.
Does Ellie hog the controller? Is that why?
Well, she sees me playing with it, and she wants to play with it too. And if I don't give it to her, she's gonna whine. And it's like, all right.
That's why you just put dance videos on the TV.
Yes, she is a dancer. That one.
I've seen
Tom
it.
knows.
Yeah, I've seen it.
We were sitting over at the what's that gallery?
The Americana over in
Glendale. There's like this old woman saying her dance, like, oh, bravo, bravo. It's like, yeah, cool. Made someone happy. I might want to do it.
Go around with a hat and have her dance on street corners.
I want to do a dance competition, like a father-daughter dance competition.
Ah, nice.
But I would have to be much better dancing, and I would have to. What's the vitamin for your joints? Because I'm at that age where I'm feeling my joints.
Glucosamine.
Whatever. It's something that greases them up so they don't feel so stiff.
Glucosamine chondroitin is what I give the dogs. I don't know if that's for humans too.
Ben Gay? I don't know. Jeez.
I don't think you take that internally.
I hope not.
I never understood the ones you rubbed on top, like the topical.
Yeah, like Myoflex is handy after hockey games sometimes.
Yeah, but you're impacting heavy trauma with hockey.
Dancing's high impact. Come on.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I guess.
No, it absolutely is.
Well, I mean, you know, it depends.
I mean, you don't get the checks that you do in hockey.
Well, no, but like
if that's what you're thinking of. But it's, you know, you're jumping up and down on your knees.
Jumping up and down on my yeah. That's how you land it.
Full contact dancing is not something that I've seen.
That's slam dance.
I guess. Oh yeah, that's true. Are there slam dance competitions?
Moshing. That's another one.
That's pretty contact.
I was about to say there aren't, but I hesitate to say that.
I'm sure there is.
Mosh pit competition.
The last person moshing wins. I guess. Mosh pits used to start up in the weirdest places. But,
like ice cream parlors.
Where are you hanging out?
No. Like at say They Might Be Giants concert. Like people are like, why are you moshing to this song? Like, why are you moshing to any of our songs?
Not the places, but the bands.
Yes.
Yeah. They don't happen in churches. Or...
you never know. Might be an exciting church.
One of the wrong churches.
You've taken the going to the wrong denomination.
Yeah.
If you go to this one, we do everything.
We know how to party.
We laser tag.
First Universal Church of Slam Dancing.
Why not?
You know, there's got to be a church out there that does have this kind of thing.
You know, yeah, exactly. There's something for everything. So I would not be shocked. And I will be even less shocked when somebody emails us and says, "Here it is. Here's the link."
And here's our 5th annual slam dance competition. Slamming for the Lord. Actually, that sounds like a WWE
plot line.
It's special.
Yeah. No, SoundCloud's doing that thing where it lets me upload just fine, but then takes forever to start processing. It's just watching that orange peppermint stick slowly move.
I need to get a new video card after I move.
Why?
Because my GTX 570 died. I'm using on my PC. I have to use the internal video.
So you're getting a 1080.
I wish.
Yeah.
I wish. I got payments now.
Yeah.
Although ironically, it's going to be roughly the same. Although a little bit more. Yeah. Although once I tack on my property taxes, it'll be more. But
see if you can work a 1080 into the mortgage. You barely notice it.
It's true, but I would be amortizing it over 30 years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's expensive. I get it.
it'd be like.
And it's not going to last you 30 years.
When I found out how much the bank makes off this mortgage, I was like, "Oh man, I need to pay this off fast." I just like you guys are like, it's a lot of money. You guys are in the right business. I am moving to Southern California. Nth mic, because
there are an indeterminate number of mics.
Oh,
love accurate names.
Yeah.
It's like Jennifer. There's just way too many of us.
I know my wife's a Jennifer, but I learned from this one that she's a 2N Jen, and my wife is just you. Get me something to eat. And then a cackle and a laughter ring out.
I think I know what's going on. All right. Well, I'm going to say goodbye. Let everyone get off with their weekends. Have a great time. Thank you again, Jenn Cutter, as always.
My pleasure. It's fun to do a nice light Friday.
Yay. Have a good weekend, everybody.